There we go. All right, hi guys. I am back with another live stream, reading Jurassic Park as usual. Oh, yep. Hi, Dino Rama Scopes. I am good. How are you? I don't. My computer's been bugging me with a bunch of viruses. Anyways, what was I? Right. First off, I want to do a difference between the Jurassic Park novel and Jurassic Park itself, because that's what most of you guys voted for in the last one. In my last story. Yo. What's yo? You just surprised that I'm a teen tiny little child? Yo. Yo, ho, mate, he's away. How are you doing, dude? I'm doing pretty good. How about you? So, yeah, like in the last poll, you guys voted for Jurassic Park novel versus Jurassic Park over Jurassic Park versus Jurassic World. First off, one of the differences, pretty obvious one. One is made uh, mostly for children, the Jurassic Park movie, while the Michael Crichton novel was supposed to be a child's novel, but ended up being an adult's novel. And I should have wrote out a script for this. I'm not prepared whatsoever. But yeah, so last few chapters, I am on the shore of the inland sea. Last few chapters were, I can't remember. I have brain farts. So Dinorama Scopes, if you're asking how I'm doing, I'm not doing okay. Oh yeah. Park worker gets injured on Isla Nublar because of a attraction building accident, and then the worker dies. They had to bring him over to Bahia Unesco to get him treated because there was a storm and they couldn't go over the mountains to get him to San Jose. And yeah, so and then what else happened was the beginning of the Lost World novel, or the beginning of the Lost World in this book. I don't know. So Kathy Bowman and her family go down to the beach. She gets bitten by a compy, and these people they're trying to investigate. They send the sample over to Dr. Grant to identify what this, or no, they to send the sample of what this animal is over to New York, and then they send it over to Alan Grant in Montana. And yeah. I want to start a poll. Start a poll. Should I do some live gaming? If so, what should I play? Jurassic World Evolution? I don't care about that. Get on my site. Here. Or, I spelled that wrong. Lucian. I don't give a crap. Path of Titans. Staying still. Eyes closed. There. Alright. I get reading now. The shore of the inland sea. Alan Grant crouched down, his nose inches from the ground. The temperature was over 100 degrees. His knees ached. Despite the rug layers rug layers pads he wore, his lungs burned from the harsh alkaline dust. Sweat dripped off his forehead onto the ground. But Grant was oblivious to the discomfort. His entire attention was focused on the 6-inch square of earth in front of him. Working patiently with a dental pick and artist's camel brush, he exposed the tiny L-shaped fragment of a jawbone. It was it was only an inch long and no thicker than his finger. The, on, the only the teeth were a row of small points and had the characteristic medial angling. Bites of bone flaked away as he dug. Graham paused for a moment to paint the bone with rubber cement before continuing to expose it. There was no question that this was the jawbone from an infant carnivorous dinosaur. Its owner had died 79 million years ago at the age of about 2 months old. With any luck, Grant might find the rest of the skeleton as well. If so, it would be the first complete skeleton of a baby carnivore. Hey, Alan. Alan Grant looked up, blinking in the sunlight. He, he pulled down his sunglasses and wiped his forehead with the back of his arm. He was crouched on an eroded hillside in the Badlands outside Snakewater, Montana. Beneath the great blue bowl of sky, blunted hills exposing outcrops of crumbling limestone st- stretched for miles in every direction. There was not a tree or bush, nothing but barren rock, hot sun, and winding wind. Visitors found the Badlands depressingly bleak, but when Grant looked at at this landscape, he saw something else entirely. This barren land was what remained of another very different world, which had vanished 80 million years ago. And in in his mind's eye, Grant saw himself back in the warm, swampy bayou that formed the shoreline of a great inland sea. This inland sea was 1,000 miles wide, extending all the way from the newly upthrust Rocky Mountains to the sharp, craggy peaks of the Appalachians. All the American West was underwater. At the time, there was thin clouds in the sky overhead, darkened by the smoke of nearby volcanoes. The atmosphere was denser and richer in carbon dioxide. Plants grew rapidly along the shoreline. There was no fish in these waters, but there were clams and snails. Pterosaurs swooped down to scoop algae from the surface. A few carnivorous dinosaurs prowled the swampy shores of the lake, moving among the palm trees. And offshore was a small island about 2 acres in size, ringed with dense vegetation. This island formed a protected sanctuary where herds of herbivorous duck-billed dinosaurs laid their eggs in communal nests and raised their squeaking young. Over the millions of years that followed, the pale green exposed land buckled and cracked under the heat, and the offshore island with its dinosaur eggs became the eroded hillside in northern Montana, which Alan Grant was now excavating. Hey, Alan, he stood. He stood a barrel, ch- a barrel-chested, bearded man of 40. He he heard the chugging of the portable generator and the distant clatter of the jackhammer cutting into the dense rock on the next hill. He saw the kids working around the jackhammer, moving away the big pieces of rock after checking them for fossils. At the foot of the hill, he saw the 6 teepees of his camp, the flapping mess tent, and the trailer that served as their field laboratory. I don't care about that. Quit bothering me. Alright. And he saw Ellie waving to him from the shadow of the field laboratory. Visitor, she called, and pointed to the east. Grant saw the cloud of dust and the blue Ford sedan bouncing over the rutted road toward them. He glanced at his watch. Right on time. On the other hill, kids looked up in interest. They didn't get many visitors in Snakewater, and there had been a lot of speculation about what a lawyer from the Environmental Protection Agency would want to see Alan Grant about. But Grant knew that paleontology, the study of extinct life, had in recent years taken on unexpected relevance to the modern world. The modern world was changing fast, and urgent questions about the weather, deforestation, global warming, or the ozone layer often seemed unanswerable, at least in part with information from the past, information that paleontologists could provide. Where was I? Oh yeah, he he had been called as an expert witness twice in the past few years. Grant started down the hill to meet the car. The visitor coughed in the white dust as he slammed the car door. Bob Morris, EPA, he said, extending his hand. I'm with the San Francisco office. Grant introduced himself and said, You look hot. You want a beer? Jesus, yeah. Morris was in the late 20s, wearing a tie and pants from a business suit. He carried his he carried a briefcase, his wingtip shoes crunched on the rocks as they walked toward the trailer. When I first came over the hill, I thought this was an Indian reservation, Morris said, pointing to the teepees. No, Dr. Grant said, just the best way to live out here. Grant explained that in 1978, the first year of excavations, they had come out in North Slope Artrigil, Artrigil tents, and the most advanced available. But the tents always blew over the wind. They tried other kinds of tents with the same result. Finally, they started putting up teepees, which were larger inside, more comfortable and stable in wind. These are Blackfoot teepees built around 4 poles, Grant said. Sioux teepees are built around 3. But this used to be Blackfoot territory, so we thought. Uh-huh, Moore said. Very fitting. He squinted at the desolate landscape and shook his head. How long have you been out here? About 60 cases, Grant said. When Morris looked surprised, he explained. We measure time in beer. We start in June with 100 cases. We've We've gone through about 60 so far. 63 to be exact, Ellie Sadler said. As they reached the trailer, Grant was amused to see Morse gaping at her. Ellie was wearing cut-off jeans and a work shirt tied to her midriff. She was 24 and darkly tanned. Her blonde hair was pulled back. Ellie keeps us going, Grant said, introducing her. She's very good at what she does. What does she do? Morse asked. Paleobotany, Ellie said. And I also do the standard field preps. She opened the door and they went inside. The air conditioning and thing and the only brought in temperature down to 85 degrees, but it seemed cooler after the midday heat. The trailer had a series of long wooden tables with tiny bone specimens neatly laid out, tagged and labeled. Farther along were ceramic dishes and crocks. There was a strong odor of vinegar. Morris glanced at the bones. I thought dinosaurs were big, he said. They were, Ellie said, but everything you see here comes from babies. Snake water is important primarily because of the number of dinosaur nesting sites here. Until we started this work, there were hardly any infant dinosaurs known. Only one nest had ever been found in the Gobi Desert. We've discovered a dozen different hadrosaur nests, complete with eggs and bones of infants. All right, what the heck? I don't care. Okay. While Grant went to the refrigerator. She showed Morris the acetic acid baths which were used to dissolve away the limestone from the delicate bones. They looked like chicken bones, Morris said, peering into the ceramic dishes. Yes, she said, they're very bird-like. And what about those? What about those? Morris said, pointing through the trailer window. Large piles of dinosaur bones outside, wrapped in heavy plastic. Rejects, Ellie said. Bones too fragmentary when we took them out of the ground. In the old days, we just discarded them, but nowadays we send them to for genetic testing. Genetic testing, Moore said. Here you go, Grant said, thrusting a beer into his hand. He gave another to Ellie. She chugged hers, throwing her long neck back. Moore stared. We're pretty informal here, Grant said. We want to step in my office? Sure, Moore said. Grant Grant led him to the end of the trailer where there was a torn couch, a sagging chair, and a battered end table. Grant dropped onto the couch, which creaked and exhaled a cloud of chalky dust. He leaned back, thumped his boots on the end of the table, and gestured for Morris to sit in the chair. Make yourself comfortable. Grant was a professor of paleontology at the University of Denver, and one of the foremost researchers in his field, but he had never been comfortable with social niceties. He saw himself as an outdoors man, and he knew that all the important work in paleontology was done outdoors with your hands. Grant had little patience for the academics, for the museum curators, for what he called teacup dinosaur hunters, and he took some pains to distance himself in dress and behavior from the teacup dinosaur hunters. even delivering his lectures in jeans and sneakers. Grant watched as Morris primly brushed off the seat of the chair before he sat down. Morse opened his briefcase, rummaged through his papers, and glanced back at Ellie, who was lifting bones with tweezers from the acid bath at the other end of the trailer, paying no attention to them. You're probably wondering why I'm here, Grant nodded. It's a long ways to come, Mr. Morris. Well, Mr. Morris said, to get right to the point, the EPA is concerned about activities of the Hammond Foundation. You receive some funding from them, thirty $30,000 a year, Grant nodded, nodding for the last 5 years. For the last 5 years. What do you know about the foundation? Morris said. Grant shrugged. The Hammond Foundation is a respected source of academic grants. They fund research all over the world, including several dinosaur researchers. I know they support Bob Carey out of Tyrrell in Alberta and John Willer in Alaska, probably more. Do you know why the Hammond Foundation supports so much dinosaur research? Morse asked. Of course, it's because old John Hammond is a dinosaur nut. You mean you've met John Hammond? Grant shrugged. Once or twice. Comes here for brief he comes here for brief visits, quite elderly, and eccentric the way rich people sometimes are, but always very enthusiastic. Why? Well, Moore said, the Hammond Foundation is actually a rather mysterious organization. He pulled out a Xeroxed world map marked with red dots and passed it to Grant. These are dig these are the digs the foundation financed last year. Noticed anything odd about them? Montana, Alaska, Canada, Sweden. They're all sites in the north. There's nothing below the 45th parallel. Morris pulled out more maps. It's the same year after year. Dinosaur projects to the south. It's the same year. Dinosaur projects to the south in Utah, Colorado, or Mexico never get funded. The Hammond Foundation only supports cold weather digs. We'd like to know why. Grant shuffled through the maps quickly. If it was true that the Foundation only supported cold weather digs, then it was strange behavior because some of the best dinosaur researchers were working in hot climates and there was other puzzles. Morris said, for example, what is the relationship of dinosaurs to amber? Amber? Yes, it's the hard yellow resin of dried tree sap. I know what it is, Grant said, but why are you asking? Because, Morris said, over the last 5 years, Hammond has purchased enormous quantities of amber in America, Europe, Asia, Europe and Asia, including many pieces of museum quality jewelry. The foundation has spent $70 million on amber. They they now possess the largest privately held stock of this material in the world. I don't get it. Neither does anybody else, Morse said. As far as we can tell, it doesn't make any sense at all. Amber is easily synthesized. It has no commercial or defense value. There is no reason to stockpile it. But Hammond has done just that over many years. Amber, Graham said, shaking his head. And what about his island in Costa Rica? Morris continued. 10 years ago, the Hammond Foundation leased an island from the government of Costa Rica supposedly to set up a biological preserve. I don't know anything about that, Grant said, frowning. I haven't been able to find out much, Moore said. The island is 100 miles off the west coast. It's very rugged, and it's an area of an ocean where the combinations of wind and current make it almost perpetually covered in fog. They used to call it Cloud Island, Isla Nublar. Apparently, the Costa Ricans were amazed that anybody would want it. Morse searched in his briefcase. The reason I mention it, he said, is that according to these records, you were paid a consultant's fee in the connection with this island. I was, Grant said. Morse passed a sheet of paper to Grant. It was an Xerox of a check issued in March 1984 from Genetic Inc. Fairland Road, Palo Alto, California, made it out of Grant in the amount of $12,000. At the lower corner, the check was marked Consultant Services, Costa Rica, Juvenile Hyperspace. Oh sure, Grant said. I remember that. It was weird as heck, but I remember it. And I didn't even have anything to do with an island. Grant has found the first clutch of dinosaur eggs in Montana in 1979, and many more in the next 2 years. But he hadn't gotten around to publishing his findings in 1983. His paper, with its reports of a herd of 10,000 duck-billed dinosaurs living alongside the shore of a vast inland sea, building communal nests of dinosaur eggs in the mud. Raising their infant dinosaurs in the herd. Grant made Grant a celebrity overnight. The notion of maternal instincts of giant dinosaurs and the drawing of cute babies poking their snouts out of the eggs had appeal around the world. Grant was paged with requests for interviews, lectures, books. Characteristically, he turned them all down, wanting only to continue his excavations. But it was during those frantic days in the mid 1980s that the that he was approached by Engine Corporation with a request for consulting services. Have you heard of Engine before? Morris asked. No. How did they contact you? Telephone call. It was a man named Gennaro or Gennino, something like that. Morse nodded. Donald Gennaro, he said. He's the legal counsel for Engine. Oh, no one's watching? No one's watching anymore? No? No more watching? Oh, my head back. What they. Where was I? Anyway, he wanted to know what about eating habits of dinosaurs, and he offered me a fee to draw up a paper for dinosaurs, and he offered me a fee to draw up a paper for him. Grant drank his beer, set the can on the floor. Gennaro was particularly interested in young dinosaurs, infants, and juveniles. What they ate, I guess what he thought I would know about that. Did you? Not really, no. I told him that we had found lots of skeletal material, but we had a very little dietary data. But Gennaro said he knew he hadn't published everything He wanted what whatever he had we had, and he offered a very large fee, $50,000. Morse took out the a tape recorder and set it on the table, and on the end table. You mind? No, go ahead. So Gennaro telephoned you in 1984. What happened then? Well, Grant said, you see our operation here, $50,000 would support 2 full summers of digging. I told him I'd do what I could. So you agreed to prepare a paper for him? Yes. On the dietary habits of juvenile dinosaurs? Yes. You met Gennaro? No, just on the phone. Did Gennaro say why he wanted this information? Yes. He was planning a museum for children, and he he wanted to feature baby dinosaurs. He said he was hiring a number of academic consultants and named them. There were paleontologists like me and a mathematician from Texas named Ian Malcolm, and a couple of ecologists from a systems analysis good group. Morris nodded, making notes. So you accepted the consultancy? Yes, I agreed to send him a summary of our work. What we knew about the habits of duck-billed hadrosaurs we found. What kind of information did you send? Morse asked. How many pages is after this? I got 4 more pages. Everything: nesting behavior, territorial ranges, feeding behavior, everything. And how did Gennaro respond? He kept calling and calling, sometimes in the middle of the night. Would the dinosaurs eat this? Why would they eat that? Should the exhibit include this? I can never understand why he was so worked up. I mean, I think dinosaurs are important too, but not that important. They've been dead 65 million years. You'd think his calls could wait until morning. I see, Moore said. And $50,000? Grant shook his head. I got tired of Gennaro and called the whole thing off. We settled for 12,000. That must have been about the middle of 85. Morris made a note. And the engine, any other contact with them? Not since 1985. And when they did Hammond the did the Hammond Foundation to begin to fund your research? I'd have to look, Grant said, but it was around then, mid 80s. And John Hammond was just a rich dinosaur enthusiast? Yes. Morris made another note. Look, Grant said, if the EPA is so concerned about John Hammond and what he is doing, dinosaur sites in the north, the amber purchases, the island in Costa Rica, why don't you just ask him about it? At the moment, we can't, Miss Morris said. Why not? Grant said. Because we don't have any evidence of wrongdoing. Morris, Morris said, but personally, I think it's just clear John Hammond is evading the law. I was first contacted, Morris explained, by the Office of Technology Transfer. The OTT monitors shipments of American technology, which might have military significance. They called to say the engine had 2 areas of possible illegal technology transfer. First, engine shipped 3 Cray XMPs to Costa Rica. Engine characterized it as transfer within corporate divisions and said they were for sale. engine care. They had to. They called to say that engine had. They called to say that engine had two areas of possible illegal technology transfer. First, engine shipped three crate XMPs to Costa Rica. Engine characterized it as transfer within corporate divisions and said they weren't for resale. But OTT couldn't imagine why the heck somebody'd need to need that power in Costa Rica. Three crates, Grant said. Is that a kind of computer? Morris nodded. A very a very powerful computers to put in perspective. Three crates represent more computing power than any other privately held company in America. And engine sent the machines to Costa Rica. You have to wonder why. I give up. Why? Grant said. Nobody knows. And the hoods are even more worrisome. Morse continued. Hoods are automated gene sequencers machines that work out genetic code by themselves. They're so new that they haven't been put on the restricted lists yet. But any genetic engineering lab is likely to have one if it can't afford the $500,000 price tag. He flipped through his notes. Well, it seems Engine shipped 24 hood sequencers to the island in Costa Rica. Again, they said it was a transfer with divisions and not an export. Moore said there wasn't much to that OTT could do. They're not officially concerned with us. But Engine was obviously setting up one of the most powerful genetic engineering facilities in the world in an obscure Central American county, a county with no regulations. That kind of thing has happened before. Let's check my poll. See if anyone's. Wait, crap, I got rid of the poll. I'm gonna leave it. Leave me alone. Ooh, getting a little tired. There had already been cases of American bioengineering companies moving to another country so they would not be hampered by regulations and rules. The most flag, flagrant, Morse explained, was the Biosyn rabies case. In 1986, Genetic Biosyn Corporation of Cupertino tested a bioengineered rabies vaccine on a farm in Chile. They didn't They didn't inform the government of Chile or farm workers involved. They simply released the vaccine. The vaccine consisted of live rabies virus, genetically modified to be non virulent, but the virulence hadn't been tested. Biosyn didn't know whether the virus could still cause rabies or not. Even worse, the virus had been modified. Ordinarily, you couldn't contract rabies unless you were bitten by an animal, but Biosyn modified the rabies to cross the pul- pulmonary alveoli. You couldn't get an infection just inhaling it. Biosyn staffers brought this live rabies virus down to the Chile in a on a bag of commercial airline flight. Morris often wondered what it would have happened in the capsule if the capsule had been broken or during the flight. Every Everybody on the plane might have been infected with rabies. How many pages is the skeleton? Only a few. Alright, I'll read the 2 chapters. I'll end the live stream. It was outrageous. It was irresponsible. It was criminally negligent, but no action was taken against bison. The Chilean farmers who unwittingly risked their lives were ignored peasants. The government of Chile had an economic crisis to worry about, and the American authorities just had no jurisdiction. So Louis Dodson, the geneticist responsible for the test, was still working at Biosim. Biosim was still reckless as ever, and other American companies were hurrying to set up facilities in foreign countries that lacked sophisticated about genetic research, countries that prevented genetic engineering to be like any other high-tech development, and thus welcomed it into their lands, unaware of the dangers posed. So that's why we began our investigation of Engine Morse said about 3 weeks ago. And what have you actually found? Grant said. Not much, Morse admitted. When I go back to San Francisco, we'll, we'll probably have to close the investigation. And Francisco, will probably have to close the investigation. And I think I'm about finished here. He started packing up his briefcase, by the way. What does juvenile hyperspace mean? That's just a fancy label for my report, Grant said. Hyperspace is a term of multidimensional space like three-dimensional tic-tac-toe. If you were to take all the behaviors of an animal, its eating and movement and sleeping, you could plot the animal within the multidimensional space. Some paleontologists refer to having the behavior of an animal as occurring in an ecological hyperspace. Juvenile hyperspace would just refer to the behavior of you juvenile dinosaurs. If you wanted to be pretend pretentious as possible, at the far end of the trailer, the phone rang. Elliot answered it. She said, he's in a meeting right now. He can call you back. Morris snapped his briefcase shut and stood. Thanks for your help and the beer, he said. No problem, Grant said. Grant walked with Morris to the trailer, down the trailer to the door at the far end. Morris said, did Hammond ever ask for any physical materials from your site? Bone, eggs, or anything like that? No, Grant said. Dr. Sadler mentioned you do some genetic work here. Well, not exactly, Grant said. When we remove fossils that are broken or for some other reason not suitable for museum preservation, we send those bones out to a lab that grinds them up and tries to extract proteins for us. The proteins are unidentified, and that report is sent back to us. Which lab is that? Morse has medical biologic services in Salt Lake. How do you how do you how do you choose them? Competitive bids. The lab has nothing to do with engine, Morse asked. Not not that I know, Grant said. They came out the door of the trailer, opened it, and felt the rush of a hot air from outside. Morris paused to put on his sunglasses. One last thing, Morris said. Suppose the engine wasn't really making a museum exhibit. Is there anything else they would have done with the information in the report you gave them? Grant laughed. Sure, they they could they could feed a baby hadrosaur. Morse laughed too. A baby hadrosaur. That'd be something to see. How big were they? About so. Grant holding his hands 6 inches apart, squirrel size. And how long before they come fully grown? 3 years, Grant said, give or take. Morse held out his hands. Well, thanks for your help again. Take it take it easy driving back, Grant said. He watched for a moment as Morris walked back toward his car and then closed the trailer door. Grant said, what do you think? Ellie shrugged. Naive. You look like the part where John Hammond is an evil arch enemy. Grant laughed. John Hammond's about as sinister as Walt Disney, but by the way, who called? Oh, Ellie said. It was a woman named Alice Levine. She works at Columbia Medical Center. You know her? Grant shook his head. No. Well, it was something about identifying some remains. She wants you to call her back right away. That is the end of the inland sea, the shore of the inland sea, and now we are on the skeleton chapter. I'm gonna go grab a drink of water real quick and talk to you about some more differences between Jurassic Park novel and Jurassic Park, and continue reading, and then that's a wrap for today's live. Uh, all right, I'm back. We got some water. Oh yeah, and Dinorama, I saw your comment. I don't know how else to tell you. Your live chat is off in your current stream. IDK. If you're gonna see it in time. I did not realize that. Chat is disabled for this live stream. What the heck? Shut up, Waterball. Dinorama, if you're still here, give me a heart. This. Give me that. God dang it. Quit giving me notifications. Alright, do it again. Are you still here? Hold up. How you doing, dude? Why is my... Okay. Dang it. Engage with your audience. Okay, so that sucks. Well, I'm sorry that the live chat won't work. Sorry, folks. Anyways, so another difference that I thought about while reading the book was... God dang it, I forgot. What are some differences between Jurassic Park movie and novel? The Jurassic Park novel has more characters. Many of the characters are majorly changed in Jurassic Park. The characters who live and die are almost totally different. The dinosaurs attempt to escape in the Jurassic Park novel. Yeah, I keep forgetting the differences between the novels and the movie. So I just had to look some up real quick. That doesn't mean I'm a fraud, though. Don't. I'm still in the stream, but I don't even have the chat menu. Okay. Okay, Dinorama. Yeah. I'm sorry, Dinorama. Oh my god. Alright. Let's continue with this. Or actually, I'm gonna start a poll real quick. Eventually, I'm going to do some live gaming streams. What should I do for those? Path of Titans, Jurassic World Evolution. No! Seriously, keeps giving me notifications on random stuff. Dinosaur Tycoons and Fortnite. Because that's the only game I have downloaded on here. That and Minecraft. Actually, it gives me a modded Minecraft with dinosaurs. Alright. There we go. Here's poll. I'm gonna leave that there. I'm gonna read a little bit, then end the stream. Sail good, I just can't it's all good. I just can't communicate directly with you. Alright. Bro, I have acne like crazy. Why am I talking about my acne? I need to keep reading. No! I don't care about it being malicious. Start poll. There. Okay, I'm done with this poll. QA. Say something. Okay, none of this stuff is working. I'm gonna continue reading. Ellie Saller brushed a strand of blonde hair from the back of her face and turned her attention to the acid baths. She had 6 in a row, and turned at Muller's strengths from 5 to 30%. She had to keep an eye out on the stronger solutions because they would eat through the limestone and begin to erode the bones. And the infant dinosaur bones were so fragile she marveled at that the that they had been preserved at all. After 80 million years, she listened idly to Grant. Miss Levine, this this is Alan Grant. What what's this about? You have a what? A what? He said, began began to laugh. Okay, I doubt that very much, Miss Levine. No, I really don't have time. I'm sorry. Well, I'd have to take a look at it, but I can pretty much guarantee it's a best-selling lizard. But yes, you can do that. All right, send it out now. Grant said. Hung- Grant said. Grant hung up and shook his forehead. These people. Ellie said. What's it about? Some lizard she's trying to identify. Grant said. She she's going to give to fax me an X-ray. She walked over to the fax and waited as the transmission came through. Incidentally, I've got a new find for you, a good one. Yes, Grant nodded. Found it just before the kid showed up. On the south hill of Horizon 4 infant velociraptor. Jaw in complete definition. There is no question about identity. Will the chat work now? Still turned off. Okay. Why did I? What? What happened? And the site looked undisturbed. We might even have get a full skeleton. That's fantastic, Ellie said. How young? Young Grant said. 2, maybe 4 months at most. And it's definitely a velociraptor. Definitely? Definitely, Grant said. Maybe our luck has finally turned. For the last 2 years at Snakewater, the team had excavated the only duckbill hadrosaurs. They had already had evidence for vast herds of these grazing dinosaurs, roaming the Cretaceous plains in groups of 10 or 20,000, as buffalo would later roam. but increasingly the question that faced them was where were the predators? They expected predators to be rare, of course. Studies of prey predator prey populations in the game parks of Africa of and India suggested that, roughly speaking, there was one predatory carnivore for every 400 herbivores. That meant a herd of 10,000 duckbills would support only meant a herd of 1,000 duckbills would support only 25 tyrannosaurs. So it was unlikely that they would find the remains of a large predator. They they were the smaller predators. Snakewater had dozens of nesting sites in some places. The ground was literally covered with fragments in dinosaur eggshells, and many small dinosaurs ate eggs. Animals like Dromaeosaurus, Oviraptor, Velociraptor, and Solaris. Where did it go? No. 3 to 6 feet tall. Must have been found here in abundance, but they have had discovered none so far. Perhaps this velociraptor skeleton did mean their luck had changed, and an infant Ellie knew that one of Grant's dreams was to study infant rearing behavior in carnivorous dinosaurs, as he already studied the behavior of herbivores. Perhaps this was the first step toward that dream. You must be pretty excited, Ellie said. Holy cow, this is a long stream. Grant didn't answer. I said you must be excited, Ellie repeated. My God, Grant said. He's, he was staring at the facts. Ellie looked over Grant's shoulder at the x-ray, breathed out slowly. You think it's an amescus? Yes, Grant said. Or Triassicus. The skeleton is too tight, but it's no lizard, she said. No, Grant said. It's not a lizard, it's a three-toed lizard, and walked on the planet 200 million years. An igneous, skillful hoax, but a hoax nonetheless. Every biologist knew that the threat of a hoax was omnipresent. I'm gonna read one more page, or two more pages, then I'll end the live stream. An igneous, skillful hoax, but a hoax nonetheless. Every biologist knew that the threat of a hoax was omnipresent. The most famous hoax, the Piltdown Man, had gone undetected for 40 years, and its per- per- perpetrator was still unknown. More recently, the distinguished astronomer Fred Hoyle had claimed that a fossil winged dinosaur, Archaeopteryx, on display in the British Museum was a fraud. It was later shown to be genuine. This this essence of a skillful hoax was that it presented scientists with what they had expected to see, and to Ellie's eye, the X-ray image of the lizard was exactly correct. The three-toed foot, well balanced, with the medial claw smallest. The bony remnants of the fourth and fifth toes were located up near the metatarsal joint. The tibia was strong, considerably longer than the femur. At the hip, accipital acetiabolum was complete. The tail showed 45 vertebrae. It was a young Procompsognathus. Could this x-ray be faked? I don't know, Grant said, but it's almost impossible to fake an x-ray, and Procompsognathus is an obscure animal. Even people familiar with dinosaurs have never heard of it. Ellie read the note: specimen required on the beach of Cabo Blanco, July 16. Apparently, a howler monkey was eating the animal, and this was all that was recovered. Oh, it says the lizard attacked the little girl. I thought that, Grant said. Perhaps a Procompsognathus was so small and light, we assumed that it must be a scavenger, only feeding off dead creatures. And you can tell the size. He measured quickly. It's about 20 centimeters to the hips, which means the full animal would be about a foot tall, about as big as a chicken. Even a child would look fearsome to it. It might be an infant, but not a child. Ellie frowned at the x-ray image. You think this could really be a legitimate rediscovery? She said. Like the coelacanth. Alright, I'm on page 51. Next time I will finish reading chapter 7. I'll read 8:40. Sorry that the comments got turned off for some reason, and I hope all of you enjoyed this live stream. I do love reading. It's pretty cool. Alright, I'll see you. Oh yeah, I am working on the documentary series, and what's gonna be about is I'm gonna make it a series. I can talk. The documentary series, each episode is gonna be a question, and I have to answer that question. And then the next episode, I will go over another question. I think I might go over 5 questions, so 5 episodes. And I am working on it. It's not done yet, but I'm working on it. I haven't even started it yet. I'm still thinking, but I'm working on it. I'm just kind of busy, and plus we're going to be moving to Kearney soon, so that's another factor too. But I'll get the documentary series going. Maybe by the end of this year I'll have it done. I don't know. Alright. Ooh. And I am going up to Colorado in May for my aunt's graduation. That's how young she is still. And yeah, my aunt's graduation. And I might be lucky to go find some fossils, like do a live stream of me finding fossils up in like the hog backs or something. I don't know. I don't know. All right. I'll see you guys later. Bye-bye.